All right, it's time to get the two politicians head-on the GDP growth numbers. I will just request my two guests, Professor Gaurav Vallabh and of course Syed Zafar Islam, to keep the answers brief because there's plenty of ground to cover and there's very little time. I will begin with you, Professor Vallabh. Will you give the credit to the government for 8.2% GDP growth? Can we expect a growth rate of more than 7.5%? It looks like it's perhaps now likely.
See, it is on the higher side due to first reason is the base price. There is a change in the base price. If you will eliminate the base price impact, which is approximately 0.75 to 0.8%, it will come down to 7.5%. And even if I assume it 8.2% for an instance, government wants to to beat their chest just to get back the country to 2-year back level, the demonetization and pre-GST level. Please try to understand, I am having today's Economic Times with me. What are the major challenges? They are saying rupee rains woes, importers runs to cover. Oil prices are expected to increase. Current account deficit is expected at 2.5%. FDI is at lowest. Then importers are going and for the hedging, and with that kind of hedging in the short term and medium term, the MSME sector is going to further get the hit. So what is great in this? If you will eliminate the base price, then you will come down to 7.4%, and at 7.4% with these macroeconomic factors which is indicated in this esteemed newspaper, it's nothing, it's just befooling the people of the country.
Give me a minute because I'm going to pose the question to Syed Zafar Islam, and I know your Twitter handle, Twitter hashtag today for the BJP and all ministers and everybody posting is New India, New Momentum. But let me just burst that bubble a little, Zafar. Pradip Chidambaram has substantiated that the high growth rate has been due to low base effect, which is also true for manufacturing, which had actually contracted by 2%, 1.8% to be precise last year. It's grown by 13.5%. This cushion of base rate is going to wane and is going to wane away through the rest of the year. How cautious are you going to be before you celebrate numbers on that count?
Well, Supriya, it's not a case of celebration. It's a statement of facts. It's statements of the reality. And the numbers are sacrosanct. It's not that it is coming from Bharatiya Janata Party, or for that when it is coming from CSO and nobody can question their calculation. What is important for all of us to realize that the structural reform which has been undertaken, time and again we have said that the reform measures which are being taken by the Government of India, by the Honorable Prime Minister, it's an initiative which will on a short term will give you a little bit of pain in terms of the GDP numbers will come off, the consumption pattern will change, all these things we have seen. But then once the reform measures are over, then you will see a growth trajectory and which has never been seen in the past. So this is first quarter result where you have seen that there are certain things which you must remember. First, that construction sector which employs the maximum number of people, fastest employment, which is showing a very good growth. Secondly, the manufacturing, both white collar and blue collar job has been created, and that is evident from the fact that recently the number has also come out where 1.3 crore people have got employment. Third thing which is very important, the capacity in the system which is now is almost over. The new investment, private investment cycle will start now. So the government capex is already there, 1.8% of GDP which government is maintaining. Despite maintaining the fiscal prudence, yet they're maintaining 1.8% of GDP in terms of the capex. But the private cycle, investment cycle will start, and we'll see much more momentum and in terms of growth. That and I will what we had anticipated and what we have spoken.
Syed Zafar Islam, the 10% growth in GFCF, which is gross fixed.
I will not be surprised.
Syed Zafar Islam, you will have to hear me now. I said you have to keep your answers brief. We've got very little. Please keep your answers brief because I can't let this discussion go out of control. I have very little time and a lot of ground to cover. I'm taking a follow-up question with you. Keep your answer crisp because I have a follow-up to ask of Gaurav Vallabh as well. Syed Zafar Islam, while you outline all the things on account of which growth is happening, and I'm happy that growth is back, there is a question that you have to answer today. We could have got to this 8% growth 2 years back. In some sense, demonetization pushed the Indian economy back by 2 years. Are you going to agree with me on this, or will you be in denial? Will you be candid enough to concede today that this growth could have come 2 years back?
Let me tell you one thing, Supriya. If you are saying that maybe 7.8%, 7.5% growth 2 years ago, 8% may be possible, but have we sacrificed that? But when you take a giant step, and you have to take a giant step, you take a step backward, and then you jump. So that is what the structural reform was. Today, when you will see that you wouldn't have anticipated 8.2%, and it is the first quarter, as I said, with new capex, with new private investment cycle starting now, you will see much more momentum, and if double-digit growth will happen, I will not be surprised. And that was simply not possible if we would have just maintained the reforms which had been taken earlier. These are reforms were important, and that's why one last thing.
All right.
That's
Zafar,
why
Zafar, let me come in on that. I was just thinking 8% is exuberant, and this new India, new momentum is being celebrated. I will take a follow-up question to Gaurav Vallabh on this. And I disagree with a lot of what Zafar says on demonetization being a structural reform, but let's grant them that. I have a bit of a flip question to ask of you, Gaurav Vallabh. Demonetization may have not done anything else, but it has led to formalization of the economy. It did not crack down on terror funding, it did not crack down on corruption, but it has brought in more taxpayers into the net. Compared to 3.8 crore taxpayers, last year, we're going to have 5.2 or what, a little more than that, 9 crore taxpayers this year by midnight tonight.
It is very unfortunate that the Bharatiya Janata Party and government is misquoting the data. The two numbers which you had quoted, one number is of 13-14 and another is of 17-18. Supriya, if you will consider that what is the average growth in 11-12, 12-13, 13-14 of number of SSCs, the average growth was around 14%, 1-4. And in the current regime, the average growth is less than 14%. If country had moved with the same average growth in the number of tax SSC as far as direct tax is concerned, the number of direct tax SSCs will be around 9 crore. I had done one research on this issue. And second thing, they always used to say that the total direct tax collection got increased. You know what is the basic reason, Supriya, for that? That is the 7th pay commission. Because after 7th pay commission, lot of people who were not under the tax ambit entered into the tax ambit, their number got increased, but the tax collection had not increased in that particular proportion. So this is just you can't always be fooled. If he is telling that demonetization is structural reform, if that is a structural reform, just 1 minute. If that is a structural reform, why you are creating hurdle for the parliamentary committee report? Why you are not discussing in the RBI report the investment, both public and government investment are at the lowest, Supriya? Why investment cycle is not reviving?
I have to come in on that. There is some revival in the investment cycle. GFCF has picked up by 10%. But I will ask a different question to Syed Zafar Islam. I agree with you that the gross fixed capital formation has gone up by 10%. There is perhaps an early sign of private consumption and private investment both picking up. But robust growth is good only if it creates employment opportunity. Here in India, we are mired in this jobs data debate. One would like to see, given high manufacturing, high growth, high construction activity, where are the jobs? Zafar?
Supriya, as I said, recently one data which had come out, where the employment number was there, that in last 6 months, how much employment which has been created. Secondly, all this investment which has taken place, including FDI and the private investment cycle is starting, it's only create jobs. So earlier, because Mr. Gaurav Vallabh must know that the kind of money which was given to the few corporates, and they were supporting crony capitalists, and it was as a process. In the process, as a consequence of that, the excess capacity was built in the system, and today it took 4 years for that capacity to get over. Now new investment will take place, and The growth will also, so you also see higher growth. But let me give you one statistic which is important, which to counter Gaurav Balla. He is saying that tax base would have increased. In demonetization, one thing which the Honorable Finance Minister has stated earlier, that 1.5 lakh people have deposited more than 3.3 crore each individual. And who are there? They were non-filers of income tax returns. So who are these? And one third of the demonetized currency was earlier held by 1.5 lakh people, and then another 5 lakh people another 1.1 crore people deposited 5 lakh each. So means
demonetization debate. No, 1 second.
Currency was held by 1.1
crore people. I don't want to make this a demonetization
the tax
debate.
base has gone up.
On that.
The tax.
Let's not waste an opportunity.
The inference what I'm trying to make.
1 second, I'm coming.
No, I'm just saying the last sentence that when the GDP was down, yet the tax collection had gone up because of formalization of economy, because of the demonetization. Now the GDP is going up.
I've already said that. Why are you repeating my point? No, I don't want to waste time. I want to discuss growth. Please don't waste time on demonetization, and Gaurav Vallabh, nor will I allow you to waste time. Please keep quiet for a minute, Zafar Islam. Gaurav Vallabh, coming to you, you've lambasted the government on certain quarters, but the silver lining in the numbers that have come in today, I agree with you, manufacturing is a bit of an aberration. It had contracted, it would go up by 13.5%. Is agriculture, it has grown by 5.3% compared to 3% growth. There's a bumper production of rice, pulses, cereals, Rabi season with an increased MSP is looking good. Has the BJP been able to address what was considered is Achilles' heel?
If you will consider agriculture also on the holistic perspective, majority of farmers still are not getting MSP. The MSP was not given to them as promised. The production is increasing, but at the same time, the import of the agriculture products in the last 4.5 years are increased by $10 billion on record, I am saying, and exports of agriculture product got reduced by around $10 billion. Another point, Supriya, on the job you had asked, see, a very interesting statistics is there that the import of electronics item, import of equipments, import of capital items, import of machinery got increased by 40%. Where is Make in India? With these type of import numbers, can you think that you can generate any single job? Not at all possible. They always used to say that we had started these number of mobile manufacturing. If you had started these number of mobile manufacturing, why import of electronic item increased by 43%?
In there, I want to move the discussion away from agriculture and away from jobs and talk about, 1 second, Zafar Islam, I'm coming to you. And I want to talk about inflation and oil prices. Syed Zafar Islam, you have been lucky with a very benign oil regime, and inflation has also been under control. First, thanks to global commodity prices that have been low, and also the government has been very vigilant on inflation as well. But how concerned is the government today about that oil bonanza now becoming a headwind, which may force the government to look over its shoulder? So far, you had to focus on growth. You weren't worried about inflation. You have dealt with oil levels of $35 to a barrel. Congress dealt with oil levels at $145 to a barrel. But is that equation now changing? Do you have to now look over your shoulders? Please keep it short. I have a last question to ask of the Congress.
Supriya, I'll just give you a statistic. Don't say 140, 160 UPA time. Average you have to take during UPA time and average of our time. It's 55 against 90, 83. That is the, as of today, the 55 against 83 is the average price of dollar which they have paid, or oil they have paid, or we have during our time.
Fair point.
See the kind of, and see the contraction in terms of the inflation, 4 percentage point, more than 4. It was double digit. It's a 4 handle. So the contraction is like 500-600 basis point. The third thing which is I want to say, highlight, so I am not overly worried about inflation, but because the stated objective of the government is we have a range. The Honorable Prime Minister have stated that what is the range, and we are maintaining that within the range always there, and it will continue to be there. What is more important for all of us to realize, I think Gaurav Balla, or for that matter, everybody is blind. The consumer demand in rural areas. See the electricity consumption. That is something which you see. Electricity consumption has gone up. See the two-wheeler sale. See the tractor sale.
No, I'm not going back to the rural economy. 1 second.
Motor vehicle sale. Everything is gone up. See the cement sector,
Okay,
growth in
you know-
cement sector, see the growth
Okay,
in
Zafar
steel
Islam,
sector,
I am
everything
not
suggests
going to
that
go
there is a
back-
momentum in the economy.
Okay, I am not going back to the rural economy. There is something that suggests there is an upsurge in the rural economy, which is FMCG growth. But if you look at rural wage growth, it has not gone up, and it's important to keep a track of that as well. But anyways, to the Congress party, I'll give you a quick last question, Gaurav Vallabh. In a paper that was brought out, I think in 2015, Milan Vaishnav had calculated that a 1 percentage point increase in GDP gives the incumbent party an 8% better chance to being re-elected. Are you more nervous today about Mr. Modi standing a stronger wicket on 2019?
Supriya, if you will compare the average GDP of the Modi government, it is far below than the UPA 2. It is 2 percentage point below UPA 1. So where are they? They can't match us as far as numbers are concerned. But as far as jumlas are concerned, they can
Calculate
beat
first.
anyone in the
No,
world.
I
Second
think
small
Supriya
point,
is
that
lying.
right now the current account deficits is moving towards 2.5%. With that 2.5% current account deficit, what job you can create? The inflation is going to go up, and job market, because imports are increasing, exports are falling, rupee at the highest. What kind of economy there is no management of economy at. We are back to 31st March 2016.
Okay, I'm
which
sorry,
is
I'll have to come in there. No, 1 second. Gaurav Vallabh, I'm sorry, I cannot give any more time to you or to Syed Zafar Islam to talk. You know what is the good point about this debate? Even though it has been an outshouting match between you and the BJP, the good point is that getting into elections 2019, I hope growth, I hope economy, I hope job creation, I hope fiscal prudence will continue to be issues that we will debate over. I hope this doesn't deflect away from growth, economy, development, onto things that shouldn't matter in India's social sphere. So I want to keep the debate on. I think we need to continue debating the economy. Growth, like I've been saying all day, is perhaps the best antidote to all our ills. Economic prosperity will mean there will be fewer cases of crime, there will be fewer people who will be unemployed to be involved in all kinds of anti-national, anti-social activities. But yes, growth, like they say, is the big tide that shall raise all boats. But thank you very, very much, gentlemen, for joining us. It was a heated political exchange, but I do hope politics is going to be about development, economy and growth, and not about other things that are non-negotiable. Thank you very much, Syed Zafar Islam and Gaurav Vallabh, for joining us. We take a breather. Up next is Top 10 at 10.